calling to order the Needham Select Board meeting for October 24th. We offer public comment first. I have not been notified that there is any public comment this evening, so I will just check in case. We do have, it looks like Mr. Nelson has joined us remotely this evening. Hello, Marcus. Good evening. The first item on our agenda is a proclamation for Veterans Day. So I'm going to turn to my key proclamation reader to proclaim, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas on Veterans Day, our nation comes together to honor our veterans and commemorate their legacy of service and sacrifice. And whereas Needham residents have answered the call of duty in every war and expedition in our nation's history to ensure the security of our country and its ideals. And whereas returning veterans contribute in important ways to the civic life of our town. And whereas their service performed with a sense of duty and honor reflect good credit upon themselves and upon our community. Now, therefore, the Select Board of the Town of Needham does hereby recognize Saturday, November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day and ask the citizens of the town to join in appropriate observance of those who have served, preserving the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy. Signed this 24th day of October, 2023.
I would welcome a motion. So moved. Is there one? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
We have to.
Roll call.
Heidi,
Yes.
Kevin,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Marcus?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. So I hope that town members are able to join us on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour at Memorial Park at the gazebo, which is where we'll be for this particular ceremony. And I do note that we have Mr. Handel here tonight. We were able to do this because Mr. Handel did not use up all the whereases when he was on this board. Okay, the next item on our agenda tonight is to introduce Cecilia Simchak as our new Assistant Director of Finance. So let me welcome Mr. Davison and Ms. Simchak to the table.
Madam Chair, members of the board. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you our new Assistant Director of Finance, Cecilia Simchak, as you have mentioned. And Cecilia is not a stranger to the board. Cecilia has been with us actually this November. She'll be with the town for 8 years. For her time, she's been with the Department of Public Works, most recently as the Director of Finance for Administration and Public Services. And she is now here at Town Hall assisting me, and we'll be taking up a number of projects that have been delayed, a combination of COVID and of course the vacancy of the position for over 2 years now. And Cecilia has a long background, as I said, not only working for the community, but she also has a history in working with youth in a series of capacities. Her education is in law, in public policy, in political science, and of course, very important, and I mean this sincerely, English literature.
That is very important. And I would note that one of the other things that she has recently been highly involved in has been the town's environmental and sustainability efforts as she staffed the Climate Action Planning Committee and done a variety of other work in public works related to that. So welcome, Cecilia, if you want to say something.
No, I'm just very
everybody.
excited for the opportunity and to move up over to town hall and get more involved in the overall town administration and not just DPW, and kind of take the skills that I've learned over there and see how I can help out in town hall and learn more about what the overall town financing looks like.
That'll be excellent. We look forward to it too. I'm very excited to have you in your new role. I recognize the challenge for Karis, who she is still standing. As I say, one head, 2 arms, 2 legs, they're all attached. This is good. So, but we will be looking to fill your shoes in Public Works because that'll be the next time. Any other comments?
Sure. Yes. It's great working with you. So when I was jumped in this job, and was working with you, I always thought, how does she know so much? And you were smart, responsive, you're prompt, you're detail oriented. And the only question I have is, what's your favorite book?
For a long time, it's been The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, since college, but I think it's kind of, as I read more, I'm transitioning out. I really do like fiction and literature, so
Okay.
that was kind of not a throwaway major, but I was just like, I was taking all these English classes and I was like, well, I might as well do something with it instead of just having them not amount to anything, so.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing what you
There you
did.
go.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would just say a little birdie told me that you have been extremely helpful in moving the Climate Action Plan Committee forward. And so we look forward to having you here to do the same with
you.
Dave.
And I'm hopeful, I continue to be hopeful that Dave Davison will get a real vacation someday. Fingers crossed for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So thank you for helping to accomplish other goals that we have that are not written down maybe. in some- But wonderful. We'll see you in other
Next.
places.
Actually, next.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Stay here.
Thanks all.
Good
Okay.
beginning.
Do you want to tell us anything else? Or you're here for the next item
We're here
too?
for the next
Yep.
item. too.
Excellent. So Karis is now coming up and we are going to talk about the EV charging rates. It was quite interesting to me because as usual, some people are like, we're not charging those people for electricity. So here we are to talk about how we can do that equitably.
So, Madam Chair, Board had a public hearing about a month ago on this topic. And there was feedback that was taken into account as we come back to you for a vote on the recommendation. There are two things. There's one is actually adopting a policy that there will be charging for the use of charging stations by the public. And we would be looking for the board to adopt that policy, which is in your packet. And secondly, is setting a rate that would be charged for individuals to charge at the town-owned or operated charging stations. And the fee would be 25 cents per kilowatt. And for vehicles that once they cease charging, will be charged a fee of $3 per hour that they occupy the spot with a 30-minute grace period for a maximum of 4 hours. The original concept was for 5 hours, but feedback from the public as well as from the board that 4 hours seemed to be a better breaking point. That's how the policy was amended to 4 hours. I'll turn it over to the Director of Public Works for any further comment.
I think the one other change that we made to the policy based on feedback was that we weren't limiting the hours in which employees have access to charging stations. One of the things we sometimes get stuck in our own little vacuum, and even myself forgot about our RTS employees that work Tuesday through Saturday. We have fire and police that work all week long and at all hours. So we decided to simply extend that benefit beyond the regular hours, with the knowledge that the vast majority of our staff does commute from outside of the community as well. So it's unlikely they'd be commuting into Needham in order to charge their vehicles outside of their regular work shift. And really the intention behind that is to continue incentivizing our employees to use less fossil fuel related vehicles for their commute.
Okay. Any questions from people on the board? I think that's responsive to the concerns we raised and what we heard in our public hearing.
Just a question. It sounds great. I'll vote for it. But do we have like a timeline? How does it work if we're hearing feedback that's not working? Is there a time we sort of take a look back and tweak something, or is there anything, or we're just gonna let this go?
So we were anticipating that we'd be revisiting the fees on an annual basis. I imagine that would be a good opportunity to revisit the policy if for some reason, for example, the 4 hours doesn't work for the schools because the teachers can't have access to be able to unplug. We can certainly look at it then.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
All I have to say is yay, thank you. This is fantastic. It's going to work out for everyone. I appreciate that you've reserved charging time for the employees, and I think it is a perk that will help people to both make the switch, but also make it attractive to come to meetings. So very excited about this policy.
And I'm uber excited about this policy. So
It's a real lift.
it's been a long time coming, but yes, here we go. I would welcome a motion, and I see that there's actually a series of motions that are related to this article.
Can they all go together?
Somebody can move them as written. Yep, that would be fine.
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the vehicle charging rate of 25 cents per kilowatt hour, a fee of $3 per hour or a portion thereof for occupying the charging space when not charging. Move that the hourly rate be waived if the vehicle is moved from the space within 30 minutes after the vehicle is no longer charging. Move that the maximum amount of time a vehicle may occupy a charging space is for 4 hours. And move that the vehicle charging rate of 25 cents per kilowatt hour is waived for town and school department employees who charge their personal vehicle while on duty, but that the hourly rate and time limit on occupying the space are in effect. And lastly, move that the electric vehicle charging policy dated October 24th, 2023 be adopted.
Second.
Any further discussion? Heidi? Aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Marcus?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. It is approved. Thank you. Another set of items on the goals?
Yeah.
Checked off. Thank you, everybody.
One last question. When will this go into effect?
It will, the logistics of rolling it out will be, I would say to be reasonable, a couple months.
I would think January 1st was
Yeah.
our intention.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Marcus, I forgot to look over for your hand, so if I'm missing it, please shout at me, okay? If you do want to jump in on something and I have not caught it. The next item on our agenda tonight is an update from the Single Parcel Local Historic District Study Committee. We have the chair here, Allison Borelli, and I know we have some other members, interested parties, and Miles here this evening. So we are looking forward to this update and hearing how the work is going.
Oh, excellent. I'm excited to share. So just for some background and as a reminder, the formation of this committee early this year was a result of an effort that was begun about 2 years ago from the Needham Historical Commission, who has a long-standing interest in preserving houses on the town and state historic inventory lists. So for more than 60 years, towns in Massachusetts have been creating these local historic districts as a means to protect their historic houses and neighborhoods from demolition and insensitive change. Local historic districts have proven to be one of the strongest forms of preservation. And the proposed district located at 3 Rosemary Street would be our first. So the purpose of our committee was to draft what is called the Preliminary Study Report, or PSR, which is in your packets. This PSR details the proposed district limits and the scope of the regulations through a proposed bylaw that is anticipated to come before a town meeting at the spring annual town meeting. And this bylaw was drafted in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40C. The Single Parcel Study Committee met throughout the summer to create the PSR, which is in your packet, as I said. The report represents the rationale for establishing a single parcel historic district located at 3 Rosemary Street, also known as the Jonathan Kingsbury House, which was built in 1779. This house is the oldest and most historically significant house standing in Needham Heights. And you can read more about it on page 8 of the report. And there are also some photographs, historic and current, in the back of the report. So a few points that I wanted to highlight for you tonight. The Single Parcel Historic District is limited only to the parcel at 3 Rosemary Street. It will establish a historical district commission, which will be responsible for approving or disapproving proposed demolition or structural alteration of the home. It will not permit the commission to consider interior arrangements or architectural features that are not subject to public view in a public way. And any future modifications to this property would have to be allowed by a vote of the proposed historic district committee, which will be established if adopted by town meeting. So process, as I said, the committee met during the summer to draft the PSR and invited both Jen Doherty of the Mass Historical Commission, as well as Town Council to provide guidance and feedback to us. We submitted this PSR to the Mass Historical Commission and to the Planning Board on September 14th, which opened up a 60-day review period for us. The Planning Board has discussed the PSR and did not have any comments. When the 60-day review period has concluded, we will host a public hearing, which is tentatively scheduled for mid-November. The committee will then take any feedback, amend the report if necessary, and then vote to adopt, and then we'll forward to your board to be placed on the warrant for annual town meeting, and of course, request your support of adoption of the article. In anticipation of the annual town meeting, the committee has some outreach already planned, which would be to do informational sessions, participate in warrant night, and of course, we would welcome the opportunity to present again to your board. So I just would like to take the moment, if I may, to thank the members of the committee and to Miles for the diligent hard work to create this report and get it submitted in a timely manner.
Thank you, Allison. And of course, one of the other, we hope, benefits of this will be once you all have gone through this process for us the first time and we've set up the commission, that we might be able to replicate. Maybe there will be some other single-family historic districts that might come forward that then will have a process. that we can
Exactly.
use.
Mhm.
All right. Are there questions from the board?
No questions for me. It seems like a very worthwhile pursuit.
I think this is very exciting, and I know it's early days, but to pick up on what Marianne was saying, I'd love to see this replicated, and I'm interested, obviously, there's a manpower aspect to this, but what would be the other main barriers? Is it the homeowners themselves saying that they would like to opt in, and are there sort of parameters of the age of the home?
So any future parcel or district would have to go through the same process of a study committee, creating the preliminary study report, submitting for the 60-day review period, public hearing, and then be approved by town meeting.
And to be fair, it really has been the practice in Needham that it's not that we have as a town gone after particular homes for this designation. It has been dependent upon the homeowner to want to bring it forward for this designation and for preservation.
Correct.
So
Yes.
that has led to losing some houses, I think. And we are trying to create some easier ways that maybe people can help to preserve their property.
Thank you for doing this. This is a great report. Who wrote it?
It was actually a group effort, committee effort.
Yeah.
It was a committee effort.
It was a
That
great committee because it was this lucid, concise, everything about it was just like, it was interesting. It moved, explained a lot of different threads going through and why so many things had to come together. And Kingsbury seemed like a great guy.
Yes, there were a lot of them. But no, it was a committee effort where everybody had a part and certainly a lot of support from town staff.
Great job.
Okay. I'm thinking, this is not anything that we need to vote tonight. It's just for discussion. Marcus, do you have any questions? Just checking in? No? Okay. If there are not, then I think we're good. So carry on. We're glad that you've reached the first concrete steps and have gone to the planning board, and we look forward to it coming back and supporting it in the future.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another one of our goals. Yes, carry on. Here we go. All right, the next item for tonight is positions on warrant articles. But maybe before we move on to that, if somebody would like to move the appoints and consent and our, appoints and consent.
I move the appointments and the consent calendar.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Heidi,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Marcus?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So there we go from there. And now we'll move to positions on warrant articles. Or whatever else the town manager, warrant articles first.
The only other item left for the board to vote is Article 15, amending the bylaws for the specialized energy code.
All right, so the one that we have is specialized energy code. This is one the Finance Committee, as you know, has voted that the article not be adopted. We did hold a public hearing. At that public hearing, we heard input from a variety of constituents. I would have said that most were in favor. There was some from builders. What we've heard from builders is certainly a concern about Eversource. And one of my big takeaways is that we have more work to do, again, with Eversource, particular to this issue. It seems to be an ongoing one, but we're hearing from builders that they are not afraid of the building code, right? The specialized code. It's a concern about the interface with Eversource, and will Eversource be prepared and responsive and timely in their provisioning of service to these homes. I think I've also heard some other things. So let me say, when we look at the Finance Committee's first objection and reason for not adopting has to do with the timing of this, right? And there are some folks who have a concern about that. They believe that fall town meeting, the special town meeting, is for special business that's before the town, for cleanup articles that are related to the prior year, for things that are absolutely mandatory that might need to come. This is not a mandatory article in that sense, okay? But I will just say part of why I would have supported, or why I did support having this put on the warrant in the first place, is that my sense of town meeting is that town meeting has changed. And we'll find out. Town meeting will let us know, right, if we're right or wrong about this. But my sense of town meeting at this juncture is that town meeting has said, well, we're coming together for a night in the fall. And at that night, you have one night to conduct business of the town. Don't ask for more than one night. So I think we have permission to conduct business that can be completed in one evening. And that's part of it. But at any rate, that is a concern of theirs. They would like anything that has this kind of implication to be coming in the spring. All right. I think the other concern that I've heard from the Finance Committee relates to just their preparedness on this article. They feel like they would be more comfortable if they had more information. They would be more comfortable if they had more towns that had more experience about this. And to be fair, it's true, Needham has prided itself for a long time on not being the first in. And I note that we are not the first in here, but we are more toward the front of the crew than we were with the specialized code, where we waited for 10 years before we accepted the specialized code. And at that point, everybody around us already had the specialized code, and all of our builders were all building to it because that's what they were building to everywhere else. But it took a long time before we got in. I think the sense of the Climate Action Planning Committee, and the reason they brought it to us for adoption, is that because it applied to new construction only, and the decision or the recommendation was that new construction made the biggest difference going forward, and there was a desire to protect the investment of those homeowners going forward, since the state has asked all of us to commit to a climate neutral future by the year 2050, and it's going to take tremendous work to be able to do that, but particularly in our buildings, which are the vast amount of emissions that we all have to control for, that we would bring it forward to the town. So that is why it has landed on the warrant now, rather than another 7 months from now, 8 months from now, whatever it is between now and May. And waiting until that time, it's another, 50 or 60 homes in Needham. So thinking about that, that's why it's come forward. So I turn to the board to gather your thoughts on that item for this evening.
I'm supporting this. I think town meeting, just speaking of timing, voted that there is a climate emergency, and this is critically important to the town. So it's an issue that they want done quickly. They want it done at fall town meeting if necessary. and they do view it as an emergency. So I think we are responsive to what town meeting wants, and I'm happy to do it. Also, the largest greenhouse gas emissions in town are from residential.
Right.
And, like if you go where the crime is, and here it is greenhouse gas emissions from residential. And if we don't do it now, it'll be another 100 tear downs, assuming there's 100 tear downs a year in Needham. That's another round of houses that go up that won't be really very efficient. And in the New York Times today, there was an article that the ice cap in Antarctica is melting even faster than they feared. And I really think this is an emergency. We have to move on this.
Well, I do think we don't have to go as far as Antarctica to see examples as we sit here and say it's, I think, the latest year ever without a frost. So there are examples right here.
Yeah.
Other comments?
Madam Chair.
Kathy?
I think that the timing is good to do this as we contemplate the MBTA Communities Act, which, will entail more building as we contemplate rebuilding our schools. And these new homes, when they are built, that's the way they're going to be, well into the future. So this is, any home that isn't built to this is not going to be changed perhaps for decades. So this is an important step for us to do sooner rather than later.
I actually do think that if homes are built now, that it will be less than decades, because I do anticipate that sometime between now and 2050, we will be asked by the state to have other homes figure out how they are going to bridge to this new technology, and that will require everybody to make some changes, but we'll see what happens. That's speculation, but otherwise they won't make the goal in 2050.
I agree. And I'd just point out that I do understand that people feel that this is we're jumping in early, and that is uncharacteristic for Needham. But the truth is that we know what the goal is, and we know that we can't meet it unless we start. So regardless of what the outcome is, if it's slightly more expensive or if it's slightly more cumbersome, we still need to do it. It doesn't exempt us from being part of the solution. It looks like it won't be, and we can hope that it won't be, but regardless of the cost, we still need to participate in this process of trying to find a solution and being part of this community of Massachusetts that works together to solve this problem. There's
So-
not going to be a better time.
Yeah. So I do think what I've heard from many of our builders is that they are, in fact, a number of them are already building largely to this code. The difference will, if this is instituted, is that it takes away one element that is really not being included today, because it will mandate the solar on houses that are all electric, that they be solar ready, or that if they include fossil fuels, that they will in fact then need solar on the roof. And that is a change for consumers, right? And it will eliminate their choice in that area, because it will be required. So, other things. So there definitely will be changes that will be noticeable as a result of implementing this. Marcus, I don't know if you have any comments, if you would like to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I agree with my fellow select board members and the town meeting, and it was voted in as a climate emergency that we have here in Needham. So not waiting and having the opportunity to do it sooner than later, I think makes sense. And it's something that I'll be voting for. Thank you.
I do note the actual petition to town meeting, right, said that town meeting acknowledged that there was a climate emergency and asked the select board to declare one. It also asked the select board to send their motion, the resolution, to the state and to several other entities, and specified some actions that they wanted the select board to take in addition to declaring climate emergency. The select board never declared a climate emergency, but the select board has taken the other actions that it was so directed by a town meeting to make this a priority. And this fits within the scope of that priority that was given by town meeting, in my view. Any other comments? If there are none, then I would welcome a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the board vote to support Article 15 in the special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Any further discussion? Heidi? Kevin?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Marcus? I think we got a yes in there. And the chair votes yes. Thank you, everybody. That was the one that we had, right, Kate?
Yes, just a few updates. The town common dedication is coming up on Saturday at 10 o'clock. So we welcome anybody to come. It's surrounded by the spooky walk, so there'll also be many children in costume and plenty of candy to be had, but it will be a lovely event, and all of the features of the common are now in, including those beautiful catenary lights that are so appealing. So that's this weekend. Also wanted to note, Madam Chair, that the DPW has completed 8 of its flood meetings that are neighborhood specific, and there's 1 more to go. They also will be meeting with some individual homeowners who hadn't been part of a neighborhood group, maybe with more targeted staffing, because the groups that they had done were, director, assistant director of public works, water and sewer superintendent, select board members, staff, town engineer, assistant town engineer, building commissioner. So there's been a lot of learning on all sides. I think the DPW has provided some practical ideas for homeowners, and so has the building commissioner, and as well has heard from homeowners at what things that might be able to be done immediately on their streets. In many cases, these affected neighborhoods are in very low-lying rural areas, and so the options are more systemic, that we have to keep moving upstream. The Public Works is embarking on a hydrology study to see where the water is flowing so that we can figure out how we might better divert it and where it needs to be diverted. And will be Public Works Director has also, I think, as you mentioned at your last meeting, committed to putting up a dashboard of all of the locations and what has been done, what's being studied, and what work we're planning to do at those places. So more to follow. I know both Chair and Vice Chair were at, I think both of you were at all of them.
One or both, yeah.
So it was a great opportunity really to hear from the residents and to meet some new ones too. That was nice.
I do want to thank Kevin, who has done the yeoman's work
Yes.
in the vast majority of these. I've only been to a couple, so thank you for that. I think that the residents actually appreciated having us and everybody else there to listen. And while everybody would like a more immediate solution, that was a lot of water,
Yes.
and it's going to take longer than immediate to solve.
Madam Chair, and just a strange coincidence, or maybe not, Needham Market in England had a terrible flood this week. So they had 4 feet of water, many roads closed. So I think it's just everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can I just ask about the timeline for the hydrology study? Do we know when that would start, or when we can expect a result, just to set people's expectations?
So the likelihood is it will start next summer with FY25 funding. And I imagine a year to 18 months before. There may be things that are identified very early that we could be putting forward. One of the items that was discussed, for instance, if there are particular brooks that are overgrown and those brooks could take more water. I mean, this particular incident I'm not sure anything would have solved it. But, preserving as much permeable open space as we can, and perhaps even acquiring more of it, are things that are in the long-term list, cleaning out brooks and culverts so that the water can have a clearer path to the Charles River, which is where most of it flows to. So I would imagine nothing is that quick, but we'll be on it. And we expect to be reporting to you on it very frequently.
And meanwhile, we'll continue to encourage people to plant trees. Every little bit helps. It's a system. Okay. All right. Anything else, Kate? Nope. This week. The next item under agenda is a board discussion. The first thing that I have is an open meeting law complaint. So I just want to brief everybody on that one. On October 11th, the Select Board received an open meeting law complaint. The complaint was filed by Greg Darish and concerns the September 11th, 2023 joint executive session with the Planning Board and Select Board concerning litigation over 1688 Central Avenue. The complaint asserts that the Select Board, one, improperly held the executive session because the Select Board was not a party to the litigation. Two, inadequately noticed the executive session because the agenda stated that it was to discuss potential litigation. Three, failed to produce accurate minutes of the open session that preceded the executive session. And four, that board members deliberated outside of a public meeting. Pursuant to the open meeting law, the board must meet to discuss any complaint and provide a written response within 14 business days. At the time of the September 11th joint executive session, the land court had issued its decision and judgment in the case concerning 1688 Central Avenue, and it was within the 30-day window of time for taking an appeal to the appeals court. The Select Board properly participated in the executive session because it has been advised by Town Council that the Planning Board does not possess the authority to independently initiate an appeal with the appeals court. With respect to notice of the meeting, the Select Board's agenda properly stated that the purpose of the executive session was to discuss potential litigation concerning 1688 Central Avenue. This notice was sufficient because the discussion concerned a potential new appeal to the appeals court. With respect to the minutes of the meeting on September 11th, the minutes of the open session on September 11th that were initially published inadvertently admitted the Select Board's motion to enter into executive session. Those minutes have now been updated to accurately reflect the discussion and the board's vote. Finally, the perceived absence of discussion about the executive session in advance of the September 11 meeting was not a violation of the open meeting law. As a general practice, agendas for the Select Board meetings are established by the chair based on discussion with the town manager. In addition, in this case, there was no discussion outside of a public meeting between individual Select Board members about whether to hold an executive session. I would suggest that the board move to authorize Town Council to prepare and send a written response to the complaint on behalf of the Select Board.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Heidi,
Yes.
Kevin,
Aye.
Kathy,
Yes.
Marcus,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you, everybody. I have a note on committee reports to talk about the Quiet Zone Committee. So that has also met since our last meeting. The Quiet Zone had been quiet for a little while, but the Quiet Zone Committee has gathered. They went through 2 requests for proposals over the summer since town meeting. Neither had been responded to. As a result, we've now turned to a vendor who we have on contract, an engineering firm who we have on contract with the town, who has been able to subcontract to another vendor who does work specifically in this area, but was worried for other reasons that they couldn't commit to all the requirements that were in our RFP document. And we've worked with them, and they are preparing a proposal to come back to us to meet the requests that we had for going forward with a quiet zone. The timing is a little bit tighter than we'd like, but we are still optimistic that we are still on a timeline where we can bring costs forward to town meeting in the spring for the design and construction of a quiet zone in Needham. We still have some issues also to understand as they relate to the private crossing that's at Needham Golf Club. So that continues to be a challenge as it has been throughout this process. But we are moving forward and making progress, and I'm glad to report that we continue to have a path forward and are actively at work on that. Any other committees? We have had other committees. Hone, I believe Hone met.
Yeah.
And do you want to
Maybe a
update?
reminder of the workshop, which is before your next
I was
meeting.
just going to say, yeah, the meeting was held to plan for the upcoming community meeting, which is on November 9th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Powers Hall, and will be both in person and online. The group Katie King in particular has facilitated a fabulous virtual component to the presentation. So you can do it from the ease of your living room or come on in and join us in Powers Hall. We'll be taking a look at a number of the different, well, there'll be a presentation from our consultants who will explain the sort of upshot of the MBTA Communities Act, but also a more in-depth look at a bunch of stations around the room, at the various levers that we have control over to make decisions about how we want our community to look. So again, November 9th, 7 p.m., virtual or in Powers Hall.
And as we said earlier this evening, November 11th at Memorial Park at 11 a.m. for the Veterans Day ceremony. Any other town announcements? Oh,
Well, the
this
town-
Saturday, the town common,
I
right?
did that one.
You did that.
The town seal and branding committee will be meeting in early November, and we have received confirmation that we did get our $50,000 earmark from the state, so that will help us moving forward. Another thing that we found is that the town of Natick is about a year ahead of us and has adopted a new seal and has created a work plan for rebranding. So that's really helpful for us, and we'll be starting that process, and Kevin will be representing the board on that committee.
We're always happy to learn from somebody else, so good thing. All right, any other announcements or updates? If there are none, then tough to imagine, but I would welcome a motion to adjourn. We might eat dinner before 10 o'clock tonight.
So moved.
I'm not comfortable with that.
You never are. All right, Heidi, I'm not offering you the chance to discuss. Heidi,
Yes.
Kevin,
I.
Kathy.
Yes.
Marcus.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Marcus, we hope you feel better soon.
Feel better.
And thank you, everybody, this evening.